prosecutors. If we're going on to prosecutors, you know, not over just the county, but over the whole nation here. This thing is I don't know if it's getting blown more out of proportion or what. I don't know if he made it better or worse by speaking out in terms of what things are going on. I don't think there's any way that the Democrats can't go down the road of impeachment. I just don't think there's any way you can't do it with what he had said, and how he kind of very nicely and quietly kind of spoke out, didn't raise his voice, didn't say no, Barr said this and I said that. It wasn't any tit for tat. He was very matter of fact. He laid it out, and he didn't exonerate, certainly didn't exonerate that fella in the White House. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens now, because I think this is one of those issues where you got to strike while the iron is hot. That if you don't continue down the road of impeachment now at this point, and I don't care what it looks like politically right now, I'm thinking, with my daughters, if I were in office now, what side of history would I want to be on? If my 11-year-old asked me, well, Daddy, weren't you in Congress when this was going down? What'd you all do? After there are no more ice caps anywhere, after we've given away everything, that we've got here, and we aren't making anything else in America at all, and everything is happening terribly, and kids ask their parents who are in office now, well, what side were you on? Did you vote to impeach this fella, or did you just stand quiet and just follow the party line? I just don't think. I think it's time now for kind of a clarion call to kind of move down. You're talking about, forget someone's reputation or political future. We're talking about the future of this country, the future of democracy. Now, that might sound a little dramatic, that might sound a little heavy to some folks, but real deal. What this country was built upon, aside from slavery, and all of the other, all the other isms. But I don't want to get off on that tangent. But aside from that, I just don't know how it's just hard for me, after sitting here talking, especially, talking to Attorney Braveboy and what she's doing and the steps that she's trying to take, and then listening to, thinking back to Barr when he was up there just saying any kind of thing where he's supposed to be protecting the citizens of the United States, and he's protecting the president. It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know, Chief. What are you thinking on that? You think they're gonna go down the impeachment road now? I'm sure they're talking about it now all over the news. They may have made that decision now. I haven't been following as I was listening to our guests and been on the show, but I'm sure there's something going on.
Well, I haven't seen anything that would indicate they're going in that direction. But one of the interesting things that Mr. Mueller said was that if we had information that would have exonerated him, we would have said so.
Right. And that's so damning.
I mean, that's a powerful statement. And
oh yeah.
I don't care how you interpret that. If I had thought you would have been a good lawyer, I would have hired you. If I thought you would have been a good police officer, I would have hired you. Or however you want to interpret that. But you're right. That's very damning.
Oh yeah. I just, and it flies in the face of what they were trying to say. Of what they'd been trying to say all along and set up. Now, granted, they had a run with it for a while. They had a run, and it was up in the air as to whether or not we would actually hear from Mueller. And dude, he did it so cool, kind of Elliot nested, just kind of finished what he had to do and dropped the mic and like, and I'm retiring. Bye. I'm not talking anymore. I'm not saying nothing else. That's it. I'm out.
Well, I'm
Congress, you do it. You deal. I did my part. Here, I left it all here. I left it all here. All you got to do is open this up, read it, and go through it line by line.
so you have the legislative background. So what discussions do you think are happening right now behind closed doors?
Oh, the pressure is on the speaker. She's shrewd and she is a wise politician. You don't get to stay in become Speaker of the House, two times without being, especially, and she's weathered some storms. She's had some people who have fought her as recently as this last election. It was up in the air to some as to whether or not, for some, as to whether or not she was going to actually be Speaker again, with some of the young progressive voices. But she managed to maintain her post. But now those cries are going to be louder and louder for impeachment. And, I don't know. There are people who are kind of hedging their bet. There are people who are dead set against it. But now it's like, if it depends how you frame the question. If you look at it right now in the moment, then, because it's so close to 2020, because that if they do impeach, the House can do it, but by the time when it goes to the Senate, it'll never get through. So then what happens? So is it, what does it mean?
Well,
but you still do, even though I'm going back to my days in the legislature where just because it's not going to get through one chamber, that shouldn't stop you from doing what's right where you are, where you do have the ability to make a vote, where you do have the ability to speak your mind, where you do have the ability to say what needs to be said and the opportunity to say it. History demands that folks stand up and do what's right. And, as who was it? Arthur Ashe that said, I don't know, I'm going to mess it up, but he said, do what you can with what you have where you are, essentially. Forget what's going on in the Senate right now, or may not happen in the Senate, because then the pressure is on them and they've got elections too. But do what you can where you are in the House. At least you can stand on your record, and your record will stand beyond your time there, and it'll show that you were on the right side of history.
So with that being said, do you think that there is a possible mutiny in place indoors between the Democratic Party? And then, my next question is,
oh, there's some screaming going on back there. I'm sure there's some cussing and fussing. I know that.
Well,
but
I guess my next question, if you look at history, you almost had the same thing going on when Clinton couldn't bring himself to tell the truth about this whole Monica Lewinsky thing. Right. They impeached him in the House and went to the Senate and didn't make it. So are we looking at a repeat of history?
It's possible. It's possible. Different issues, not excusing anything with what Clinton was doing. I mean, his stuff was personal, and a misuse of state facilities and everything else.
Cigars and all that other crazy.
Yeah, cigars and dress, all of that stuff is a misuse of all of that, and it's true, and it's embarrassing, it's ridiculous. But this stuff has, the stuff that they're talking about here has, implications that threaten democracy. Period. His was a personal, in a personal nature, and again, not excusing it, but this thing here, it affected those two people, and it's embarrassing, and it was terrible for them both. And I'm gonna, but this thing here is huge. This has not only, national implications, but international implications in terms of how we're looked at as a nation now. I mean, I bet business leaders, when they go over across, international waters and they're trying to make deals with people, I know they have to spend the first 10 minutes of whatever they're doing apologizing for this dude. They're like, did you really vote for this president? Did you really? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I don't know. Something bad. I don't know. Whatever he said about your country, I'm sorry. But please, can we do business? I mean, this has huge implications.
Well, let me ask you this now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really think that is the case? Because it appears to me that as long as I can still make money and I'm free to do that, I really don't care what this guy does. And I tell you why I say that. I remember when they were about to impeach President Clinton, and I remember hearing some discussions in the office setting, and one of the things that people were saying was that, look, my stocks are doing well, the market's doing good, leave this guy alone and let's move on. And so that's why I'm really not surprised that you've sort of got the same thing going on now that it's the Republicans' turn in the hot seat in terms of, their guy possibly being impeached.
Right. I mean, yeah, but it's just, their stuff is just so, I've never seen, there's, when I was in the legislature, here I go again, right? When I was in the legislature, way back when, no, but I had the occasion to do the Martin Luther King Jr. speech, Martin Luther King Day speech in 2000, and I think it was 2001. But one of the quotes that I talked about was something that I heard in a discussion with Andy Young, who said that that Dr. King used to say in Washington, D.C. and politics all over the place, that what we have too many thermometers and not enough thermostats. You have too many people who will just stick their finger out there and see what the moral temperature is. And that's kind of what the Republicans are doing. They're seeing, well, our base is with us, we're good. The temperature will bear what it is we're going to do or not going to do.
Sure.
So, we can handle it, as opposed to having thermostats where the leaders are setting the moral temperature, the moral climate of the country. And this is what's happening here. This is a prime example of where, you'll learn the difference between who the thermometers are. And right now it seems like they're the Republicans who are following this cat, in lockstep. And you need some thermostats, and you need some thermostats in both parties. Well, in both parties.
Well, let me throw something out. Phil, who's listening to us on the East Coast, said that Clinton didn't commit high crimes. People, as a rule, have a problem with criminals. Now, if you look at all the guys that have been indicted behind this guy, a lot of his top people, aides, national security advisor, and the list goes on and on. Do these guys have a conscience? Do people care about that? Or again, is it just let me make my money? Because I tend to agree these are crimes, and I'm sitting there scratching my head saying, well, what in the world? Because
what's it going to take?
If that had been you or me or Phil on the East Coast, people be standing outside with signs in their hands right now talking about free Phil or free Mike or free whoever. So
free somebody, right?
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, in terms of which piece of the, how it? Yeah, I think they, as long as their bread is getting buttered, they don't care. It appears that's the case. That's what's been going on. Everything. This cat is like he's getting in here and like, don't worry about it. It's almost like they don't care about the future. It's like, well, I can get mine now. You all have to, scuffle and get yours, and try to do the best you can with what we leave you, because we're trying to take it all with us. They don't care about the climate. You don't do something about the climate. None of this stuff matters. And I'm gonna sing that every time I get an opportunity. You don't do something about climate control, and they are. I don't hear anybody really talking about that. They were for a minute. And then the other thing is, as we're talking about all of this other stuff that's so connected to this man's personality, what's not getting talked about are the issue. When's the last time you heard from the secretary